thank you, Harry and Nalan, for working with us on this expanded time for the session, which is titled as the Future Workforce, Reskilling and Upskilling for Resilience for Mr. Harry Banks, and Accelerating Manufacturing Competitiveness, Automation in the Post-COVID Economy for Mr. Alain Lafoucault. And I will make brief introductions. John and I would be moderating, and pretty soon our colleague, Ms. Regina, will be also joining as a moderator for this session. So first, Mr. Harry Banks, he's Vice President of Technology Services, Southern Company. It's a very large Fortune 500 company based mostly in South USA. Harry Banks is a seasoned technology executive with more than 40 years of experience across different industries. Over the course of his career, he has planned, executed transformational programs to enhance capabilities, optimize costs, reduce risks, and improve service quality. Key accomplishment including planning, building, and relocating multiple data centers, leading teams responsible for optimizing multi-million-dollar networks, overseeing 24/7 data center operations, digital transformation, enhancing workplace mobility, increasing adoption of collaboration technologies, numerous multi-million-dollar contract optimization, and retooling disaster recovery capabilities. So Mr. Banks is currently working as Vice President of Southern Company. He's a native of Virginia, grew up in Tidewater area, and graduated from Old Dominion University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, MIS. He lived in Richmond until moving to Atlanta in 2003. Banks is married with 2 grown daughters and 3 grandchildren. In his spare time, he enjoys home building projects and taking care of his many animals. Thank you for joining us, Harry.
Thanks, honey.
Our second speaker in this session is Mr. Alain Lafoucault. He's President of North America for Fisher Connectors. Alain has an extensive track record in business transformation and growth with over 30 years success in defining and implementing strategic plans. As President of Fisher Connectors US, Mr. Lafoucault is responsible for growing operations in the US, Canada, Central and South America, building long-term relationships with customers and business partners. In his previous position as CIO of Fisher Group's global operations, Mr. Lafoucault was a member of Group's directorate and designed the IT strategy used to transform the Group's St. Prix facility into a smart factory, investing in Industry 4.0 means of production, ERP, CRM, and supply chain. He also spearheaded the Group's exploration and innovation programs as one of the 3 main sponsors. Prior to joining Fisher Connectors, he worked for 24 years for Grundfos, a leader in pumping solutions with over 19,000 employees internationally. Wow. In different leadership positions, living and working in 14 different countries. At Grundfos, he managed complex transformation of IS, IT projects to support the group's international growth and evolution. Alain is a member of the advisory board of Next Generation Manufacturing, which connects manufacturers with the resources they need to share best practices and innovation. And we will be joined by Ms. Regina Maddox. She's the Executive Director of Next Generation Manufacturing. So with this, I would share the screen for Harry's presentation first.
Okay, great. Good morning. Thanks, Ani. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. Ani, just jump to the next slide, please. So a bit about Southern Company. So Southern Company is a large utility based in the Southeast. We serve about 9 million customers, mainly in the Southeast, although we do have some customers up in Virginia and Illinois. We provide gas and electricity. So next slide. So really would like to talk about my beliefs and why I think upskilling is important. Number one, it's all about innovation. So successful companies know, this is no big secret or anything radical, that successful companies truly are driven by innovation. And I believe that you can buy innovation or you can find it from within. And if you find it from within, you're going to find that that your people are the real subject matter experts, and that you need to figure out how to invest in those people, especially if they're creative, because I believe that creative people are thirsty for knowledge. And then just to bring it home with respect to technology, Technology is such an evolving space, continues to change at a rapid pace. Again, I'm not really saying anything new. And it's extremely difficult for everyone, or at least the knowledge workers, just to be aware of the technology that's available at their disposal, much less for them to be proficient in them. So in my opinion, all these points really should drive companies to develop strategies for upskilling their staff. So I'm going to focus on two areas. First is digital literacy, and then I'm going to talk about data literacy, which has been our journey for the past couple of years. So first is digital literacy. So digital literacy is really about making people more digitally dexterous. And it's mainly focused on the knowledge workers. And I found this great quote that it talks about the importance of having a digital workplace, and that a digital workplace is where people, technology, and organizations meet. And if you're truly going to transform your company to be digital, you obviously have to have a digital workplace. Next. So, and since the pandemic, this has really been driven home in a big way, that people need to be able to collaborate virtually using technology like we're doing today. And it takes a little bit of a skill. Obviously, you need to know how to operate the different technologies, but beyond meeting, you need to be able to do things such as collaborating, brainstorming, whiteboarding, and so on. So, and going forward, again, it's my belief that we're all going to continue to work in a more virtual way versus in person. So being able to leverage technology to do so is going to be even more vital. So I'm going to talk a bit about our digital literacy program, which fortunately started well before the pandemic. We recognize that we subscribe at Southern Company to a lot of different technologies, and that many people just didn't even know about them, much less were good at them. So we did a lot of different things over the past few years to try to change that. So the first thing is we created an internal site. We call it TechSource, and it's really all things IT. It's where people can go and get technology, but they can also learn about technology and become aware of technology. We created a bunch of videos for new employees coming into the company, exposing them to the technology that's available to them and teaching them how to get to them, how to access them. We created a bunch of gamification campaigns to try to incent people, even bribe them with giveaways and whatnot, again, to get them to learn about the technology. We created a technology experience council, and this is comprised of people in the business that we work with. We'll present new technologies to them, take their pulse, get their read. Do they think this is useful, that can benefit them? If so, then we'll take that information and try to push it out on a broader scale. We've created forums that we drill into certain technologies very deeply, such as a lot of the analytics type of technologies. And then we've also tried to create a community of practice. So like the internet, I don't know about you guys, but I find a lot of information about trying to fix things around the home off of YouTube. So why not have that same type of community in the workplace? So we've tried to foster that as well. So that's really the key things about our digital literacy program. Okay, so next slide. So I'm going to talk about data literacy next. So data literacy is even more important, and this is something that we're really trying to promote on an enterprise level. So all companies, all successful companies today, even more so, are companies that are data driven. And what that means is these are companies that are making strategic and operational decisions based on data versus the old gut, or this is how we used to do it. So we feel like our knowledge workers especially need to become data literate. And what that means is we want people to be comfortable with working with data, to understand what data is, to understand the importance of data quality, what data stewardship is, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the little graphic here in the utility world, it talks about all the different things that are data related. So meter data is very important, financial, customer data, GIS, where assets live, and so on. So all these things go into the mixing bowl. So we created a data literacy program that really would work for everyone in the company if they're interested. And it starts with a self-assessment to figure out where that individual is in their data literacy journey, because you could have people at all different levels. And then secondly, based on that assessment, a curriculum will be created. And then obviously the participant will take that curriculum, that material, and then we'll continue to reassess where that person is to try to reinforce the learning and to help them move along. Next slide. So one of the key things about our data literacy program is that we let the participant decide on how literate they want to be. So do they want to do something simplistic, such as just create a simple report or a dashboard, or do they want to do machine learning? And so we support everyone, no matter what their aspirations are from a data literacy standpoint. Next slide. So again, what we built is a platform where any employee can engage to enhance their skills, no matter where they're starting from. We want to make sure that we enable people at Southern Company to be educated and conversant in the use of data, the concepts, the tools, and the techniques. So like any company, we have tons of tools, and we want to make sure that people, again, sort of goes back to some of the digital literacy stuff. We want to make sure people are aware of these tools. And if they're interested, we want to teach them how to use those tools. We partnered with a third party, a company called QuantHub. And QuantHub actually started as a company that would assess candidates that were like data scientists, data engineers, where you could send them over to, and basically see how good they were before you hired them. And we actually worked with QuantHub to build this program. And it's been a great partnership. They've done a tremendous job. And one of the tenets of the program is we wanted it to be convenient for people to learn. We didn't want it to be something where they had to set aside days or weeks to learn anything. So it's using what's called a micro-learning technique, where people can spend 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. They can read an article, they can take a small course or whatever, and they can constantly be working on enhancing their data literacy skills. And of course, we try to create these personas where people can sort of see where they are in the journey. We try to gamify it a little bit, try to make it fun. We did a pilot with QuantHub back in 2020. I think it was August of 2020. We did about a 4-month pilot. We had probably 40 people involved in that pilot. Some were IT, most were in the business, and it really worked well. So we launched across the company this past March, and we have about 600 people now actively participating in the program. So we view it as a pretty big success. But in talking with others, what we have found is that we also need to offer a program that's specific to leaders, because if you think about what a knowledge worker may need to know versus what a leader may need to know, it's very different. So we're working now to develop a data literacy program that's going to be specific just for leaders. Okay, next slide. So I'm just going to close by saying that upskilling leads to innovation, and innovative companies lead to successful companies. So I listed a few of the usual suspects that you think about when you think about a successful company. And my message is make it fun, make it convenient, but most importantly, make it rewarding. And I feel like if you invest in your people, you'll definitely reap the dividends as a company. So that's it. thank you so much.
Thanks, Harry. That was a fascinating presentation. We will have a few questions. John and I have prepared for your presentation. Now, it is incomprehensible that a large company like yours, when they have to undergo and take programs of upskilling or education efforts, what kind of challenges you face when most of your workforce, and I'm making an assumption here, is once they join companies like yours, they work with you for 20, 30 plus years, right?
That's right.
So, so they are graduates of 70s or 80s and still working with you, and they have families, they have grown in age. They're physically and mentally, their learning skills are becoming slow because as they start aging. And then you are adding a new dimension that, okay, now we want you to go to this program. And basic thing is how do you incentivize? What motivates them,
Yeah, I think it's just one of the things that motivates them is they know that we have to improve and do better just to be competitive. And our leaders, like all big companies, we talk with our peers and we observe what our peers are doing in the industry, and it just everybody sees that these skills are vital. Not only just to survive, but to really be competitive going forward. And you may ask yourself, okay, you're a utility, why do you care about being competitive? Well, that is important. We're still regulated, and one of the big things about being regulated is being able to provide energy for the least cost possible. So we are constantly pressured, looking at ways to become more efficient. And obviously, in today's world, become more green, and all these things are rooted in leveraging technology. So it's just something that we have to do. Culturally, it is a challenge. You hit on some of the things that I really feel are cultural issues, where people have to be willing to change how they do what they do. They have to be more open-minded. The analogy I use around data and analytics is we want every piece, every large asset to have a predictive maintenance model or a condition-based maintenance model. And the analogy that I use is, when I grew up, I was taught to change the oil in the car every 3,000 miles, right? And so now I have to change my habit to change the oil when the car tells me to change the oil. So we have to really get people willing to change how they do their jobs. And it is hard, because that is you have to be able to trust the new way, and which means you have to be able to trust the data, which means you have to be able to understand where that data came from. So it all just sort of ties back together.
Right. John?
Yeah, I was fascinated by your presentation, and as a business professor, a question comes to mind. Do you encourage some of your data engineers to go back to school in executive format? Is that part of your program?
Absolutely. We're definitely encouraging people to go back and get more education, because this is such an evolving space and it's becoming very specialized. We actually did a program, and the readout was last week, as a matter of fact, with a group of master's students up at KSU, and we gave them a problem to work on, and it was trying to analyze our service tickets, looking for trends and whatnot, and they came up with some great ideas, which just proves that even people that are experienced, that have been doing this and working with this stuff for a long time, there's a lot more that can be done, and we have to constantly be pushing the envelope. I mean, the technologies themselves just dictate that in such a big way. So it's an ever-changing space for sure.
I was wondering if you work with the state of Georgia technical college system, which provides 2 years education apprenticeship. It's really one of the jewels in the crown of Georgia's education system in providing really ready-to-use workforce material for for operational settings.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we are. I mean, we certainly have lots of interns or part-time workers, that are in the Georgia college system. We've got, matter of fact, I spoke with a young lady this morning that's going to Georgia Tech and has been with us for a couple of years now on a part-time basis, and has learned and grown and just has done a phenomenal job. And so there's a lot of opportunity out there to pull in.
I was curious about your self-assessment of individuals, which relates to Annie's questions on motivation and incentives. How do you assess your workforce in terms of data literacy, among other things? I mean, is it a voluntary program or?
It is. Yeah, it is a voluntary program. Southern Company, while we have been doing a lot with data and analytics, certainly as a large company, we're nowhere close to where we would like to be. But this program is voluntary, and it's kind of interesting. We're getting all different levels of participation. We even have a couple of executives that have jumped in the program, which I found pretty gratifying.
So your workforce is spread throughout the state and maybe really beyond the state, as I understand it.
That's
so
right.
The Technology Council allows you mentioned the Technology Council, that allows you to bring together in a network sort of way, different employees located in different locations, remote locations, really from the corporate headquarters. Yep. Is it effective? Is it an effective tool? Does it meet all your expectations and objectives?
Yeah, it's very effective. So we have people all across Georgia, Alabama. We have Nicor Gas up in Naperville, Illinois. We've got Virginia Natural Gas. We got Mississippi Power. So we have, and that Technology Council has been very deliberate in including people from all over the company, all the different operating companies of Southern Company. Southern Company has many different operating companies. We provide nuclear. We have Southern Nuclear as well. We have a telco business, Southern Link. So we're intentional about ensuring that we get participation from all those folks, so their voice can be heard.
Thank you. I cannot help but ask you, because you raised the question of green. You're one of the few companies that has really put in the field a civilian nuclear power plant, which is remarkable. I mean, could you tell us a little more about it? Because it would require quite a bit of retooling and reskilling on the part of your employees, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we're the only company in the United States that's building new nuclear. And it's very exciting. We're actually getting close to those units coming online. The first one is scheduled to come online, I think, in Q3 of 2022. Those are huge investments. They take years to build, but obviously nuclear is the most efficient way of generating energy, very green. So we're very excited about what that's going to bring to our company and really to our constituents.
Do you find that remote repair and machine learning are really the hardest skills to impart to your field workers, like being able to resolve a problem remotely or anticipate a problem using databases?
Yeah, I mean, it is, because you have to, the challenge is capturing what's called failure proxies, learning about what are the things that cause problems, and machine learning, when you break it all down, it's really about pattern recognition. You know, it's looking for patterns and then being able to raise the flag when you see something going askew. And so in the case of condition-based maintenance or predictive maintenance, you're trying to find what are those patterns that indicate failure. So for us, when you generate electricity, it could be higher temperatures, it could be vibrations, you know, more vibration, or it could even be that the oil wasn't changed, if you will, in a long, long time. Or it's a litany of things, and to be able to knit all that together to develop your models is how it works.
And IoT, Internet of Things, I take it you're using sensors in all of your operations, which
Absolutely.
feed a
Absolutely.
huge amount of data. Are you able to use all of that data? I mean,
Not
well trained the
yeah.
workforce.
Yeah. Yeah, the answer is no, not yet. We're not able to fully use all that data, but we're certainly working at it in a big way. And we use a lot of it. I mean, we have sensors on all of our generating fleet, and we have sensors on our grid as well. And we're using automation to help, you know, reroute energy when there's failures out in the grid. So there's a lot going on here that's obviously data driven.
Great. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate your presentation. Please
Excellent.
Stay on. We go to Alan, and we will come back to Q&A.
If you don't mind, I have a question for Harry. May I?
Yeah, please.
Harry, you mentioned digital literacy and digital workplace, and the fact that you want to really train your people to be able to work in this digital workplace. But I mean, I don't want to sound like an old grumpy man, you know, but when you look at the new generation, our kids, I mean, their way to interact with each other is very digital today, okay?
That's right,
and, don't you think it's a matter of bringing the old workforce into a digital world, but also to adapt the company to the new generation coming? Because I mean, that's their way of interacting today.
Yeah, absolutely.
See that gap?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's like, you know, if you look at a simple help desk model, the old school, they don't want to call, they want to yell over the cue ball to their buddy, you know, come fix my problem. And then conversely, the younger generation, they don't want to call either, they want to chat. So or even just leverage a self-service model, which we're certainly promoting a lot of, trying to create automated ways that people can self-serve, fixing their own problems.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Harry. Please be with us. I'm going to Alan's presentation. Okay, great. Alan, all yours, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. So next, because my topic today, is about automation in a post-COVID economy, and I don't want to pretend that automation is the magic recipe for all manufacturers and all industries, but I will try to address the question, is every manufacturing process a good candidate for automation? I'm not here to represent all manufacturers, obviously, and therefore I will use Fisher. I know them well as a case study for my presentation. So allow me to say a few words about what we do so that you understand the challenges and the opportunities we are facing. Don't worry, it will be only one slide about Fisher and then the rest. So at Fisher, we provide reliable connectivity. So what does it mean? For us, it means products like connectors that you see at the top, custom-made cable assemblies, you see some example at the bottom, or electronic devices like rugged switches, hub designed to meet the Army requirement for the connected soldier. On the left, you see a thermal camera on the pole used by police, border control, or even maintenance and inspection companies. Here's next. So once again, the topic for that session is about automation in a post-COVID economy. So I wanted to kind of set the scene and to make sure that we understand the context in which we are right now as an industrial company, manufacturing company, because it may depend from one market to another one. The last 8 to 10 months, they have been a nightmare for us from a recruitment point of view. What we are calling the Great Resignation is not a myth, at least for what we have seen. The scarcity of labor force has obliged employers like us to fight using wage increases, benefits, sign-on bonus, retention bonus, and that was it has quite an impact on the margin. The second is about lead time. Everybody heard about the chip shortage and its impact on the automotive industry. We are not in automotive industry, but I can tell you that it has affected us as much as the car manufacturers. And the increase of lead time is not only valid for chips, it's also for many other products like chemicals, cables, stainless steel, and many more. The third component is the price increase, because obviously when you have a demand that is higher than the offer, this is quite a natural effect. Although we can discuss this in some case, it's not kind of done on purpose to reduce the availability to increase the price, but that's another debate. Transportation cost. I mean, everybody knows that we are off the charts right now, and we are not expecting that to go to change anytime soon. And to finish on the post-COVID economy, at least a positive factor is that we have a very, very high demand. Our open orders portfolio is the highest that we have seen, a combination of very high demand, but also very long lead times. Next. So needless to say that the context is not the easiest one ever from an industrial point of view. So is it the right time to talk about automation? Should we focus on all the other problems? But absolutely. We know that the labor cost increase is something extremely complicated to reverse. So higher salaries are here to stay. Demand being high, we need to increase throughput. So automation is obviously one way to solve this equation. Next, please. And when you think automation, you imagine the factory like this. You know, robots everywhere, and just people checking on or making sure the robots is up and running. Next. And for us, Fisher Connectors, it's particularly true when we look at our plant in Switzerland, where we manufacture the connectors. There you will find a lot of robots, vision systems, and many automatic machines, which have, for most of them, been specifically built for our purpose. Next. But if we look here in the US, what we do, we build custom cable assemblies. You see soldering picture here, and that's what we do. And most of the tasks are, well, let's face it, manual. On the right side, you see some examples of the cables we manufacture. They are often complex or very complex. Now, let me tell you something about numbers. Go to the next slide, please. Every year, we build about hundreds of thousands of cables. So, you know, I put a thumbs up because it sounds like a good enough number to invest in automation. But, because there is always a but, if you press next, in average, we build only 500 of the same product every year. So, and this is where our dream of complete automation stops. Because you can imagine that building a cable involves several steps. Next, please. And this table shows the high-level part of the operations. As you can see, some of them are automated or partially automated, but the three that I have highlighted in yellow are the most time-consuming, and they cannot be automated. With cannot, I mean that, it doesn't really make sense from a manufacturing point of view on our side because of the volume. And it's not that we didn't try. Please go to the next slide. You know, when you look at the level of automation we have in Switzerland, obviously that's something we are very aware of. We want to be as much as efficient as possible, but looking for a machine or a robot or automation system that will have the versatility we need, the quick changing, quick programming that we need because of the number of products that we manufacture every year and every week and every day, with a reasonable return on investment, well, we couldn't solve that equation. So far, it has been a mission impossible. So we have been looking at other technologies to improve our efficiency and productivity. So if you go to the next slide, I would mention augmented reality, for example. And we worked, we tried to discuss that with Georgia Tech and the MEP, particularly for work instructions. But again, when you weight the time you save on the floor versus the time it takes for an engineer to make these work instruction kind of compatible with any AR system, unfortunately, the balance ends on the wrong side, and it's more expensive to spend to have those augmented reality work instruction than the time it really saves on the floor. So does it mean that we should just accept the situation and conclude that automation is not for us? Well, we don't want to give up. Okay, so we are still looking. But next, then if we look at, can you go on the next slide, please, Annie? Automation is not only on the floor, basically, and we have been looking at every place where we could, let's put it in quotes, automate the technology that we use. And for that, we have been looking at automation at company level, not only on the production. Next. So these are very high level processes, and I'm sure that any company will see almost the same thing. And it's not rocket science. We are just trying to find new customers, opportunities, and then we're quoting, we're getting an order, designing, planning, procuring, manufacturing, shipping, and billing. And hopefully at some point we will pay our vendors and get money from our customers. Again, no revolution here. But we have also systems to support these processes. Please next. System like CRM, ERP, CAD system, product lifecycle management. And these systems have been implemented recently or not so recently for some of them. So we still have a lot of room to improve. And I have listed a few. Press next. So these are the area where currently we think that we have quite some gains to get by looking at more automation in these processes. Next. Once again, nothing really enormous or high technology, but something that even some of you might smile looking at some of the term because it looks like old-fashioned technology. But remember that for we are not a huge company. I would say that we are an SME, and some of these technologies or solutions were not really needed until now. But the economic and the business tension we are facing right now kind of force us to rethink about it and finally move forward. Press next, please. My conclusion here is that as an industrial, we are too often focused on improving our production processes because it's really directly impacting our efficiency in producing our products. But the same approach can be used to challenge any process, not only the manufacturing ones. Eliminating waste, finding automation, 5S, continuous improvement. I'm asking every single of our managers to have the same, mindset. And the gains are sometimes significantly higher than one may think, simply because, we are also talking about employees that are getting paid more than our hourly employees, and it also has an impact on our throughput. And last, the difficulties we are facing to automate our manufacturing processes is kind of a wake-up call for design innovation. The connectors and cable assembly design concept didn't change for several decades. To really say something that I always find very amazing. We have been, Fisher Connectors is a 67-year-old company, and we are still selling products which have been designed in the 60s, and they are, really our high sellers, high runners. So from a design perspective, they are based on manufacturing processes and techniques which are, 60 years old. So it's time to innovate and find solutions to make the impossible possible. Redesigning things so that the product, the lot size would not be a showstopper for automation. I cannot say too much about that because it's a matter of intellectual property, but I would say that will be the next big change in our industry, is to really reimagine the design of the product so that not only for the functionality, but also for the manufacturability and the automation in mind.
Thank you, Alain. A very nice presentation, and covers a huge area which is central to our conference this time. And I would request John to start up with a couple of questions he has for you. And Regina, are you with us? Please, Regina?
She was here a minute ago.
Yeah,
I'm here.
yeah.
I'm
Hey.
here. Sorry about that. I just
Welcome.
unmuted myself.
Welcome,
Good
welcome.
morning.
Hey,
Good morning,
greetings. How are
everyone.
you?
Thank you. for
Great,
joining.
thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Well, thank you, Alain, for a first-class presentation. I have a question on labor cost, which of course is a macroeconomic question. You mentioned the viscosity of the labor force, and you made a point that once wages go up, you cannot take it back. And I think you hinted to some extent that automation was perhaps, or increased, enhanced automation was perhaps a way of coping with a rising wage bill internal to the company. Did I understand that right?
Well, before I answer directly to your question, let me say something else. You know, during COVID, we have seen a supply chain which was a disaster, with a lot of things coming from Asia, which could not be imported anymore, with lead time which were completely crazy. And companies, more and more companies, have been talking about reshoring, for example, as a way to kind of manage the risk. It's all about risk management, you know, at the end of the day. How do you manage your supply chain? You have one way. I heard earlier in the different session about stock increase as a way to also manage, you know, peaks and the shortage of supply. But all in all, I would say that we, the world, the businesses, have a short-term memory. You know, we what we think about reshoring and made in the US and so on quickly stops when there is a matter of cost and competitiveness. So right now, my customers, although they want everything immediately, they still are not ready to increase the price they pay for the product. And you know, despite everything I've described, increase of price of the raw material, increase of the wages, we, Fisher Connectors, didn't change a penny on our prices yet. Okay, simply because the market is not ready for that. And it's unfortunate, but that's the situation, because some people think it's just temporary. I don't think it is, because again, I do not feel it will be easy to go back to my employees and say, hey guys, the crisis is over. Let's go back to the previous salaries. You know, that will be a difficult thing to sell. Now, do I want to remove all my people and have robots instead? That's not my values, so that's not what I'm expecting. But I expect that there will be a kind of stabilization where companies will be ready to pay a bit more the premium of having the safety of having a made in the US product, you know, created here and manufactured here, tested here, designed here. And it's also why most of my customers are in the medical and in the defense business, because they are, you know, able to pay the price for that quality and reliability, and they don't want to take the risk of getting something cheaper with the consequences of they can face. But we need some kind of automation, not so much to replace our people, but to increase the throughput, if you want. So it's more a matter of efficiency than a matter of margin, if you will.
Do you find that in terms of automation of in manufacturing facilities, the US lags behind perhaps Germany or Switzerland or other benchmark countries?
Well, I cannot pretend to be a world expert on the automation, but what I've seen is I don't think it's a matter of country. I think more it's a matter of industry. We were at the signature event with Regina a few weeks back, and you know, when I hear Kia factory issuing one car every 52 or so seconds out of the factory, you know, it's amazing, and we cannot even produce a cable that's fast. So it's really a matter of industry, and I think the automotive industry is way ahead of some other industries. But remember, we are in a niche market, and it's more a matter of volume than anything else. You know, a matter of volume, and if you can spend the money to automate or not.
You had mentioned some of the future plans for your automation in your presentation, but you also mentioned that there are two areas, if I remember correctly, medical and Department of Defense that are most some of your high growth areas, I guess, if that's fair to say.
Right.
Are those areas that you are and having had the pleasure of visiting your facility, I can picture this, but are those areas that you feel like may be prime for automation at all? Or are there any parts of it, or are there others that you may be able to automate? I know you mentioned the back of the house, or that there may be opportunities for that, but what about those areas?
Well, I mean, obviously they represent most of our business with more than 70%. Almost, I think in 2021, it will represent 75% of our business. So obviously it's really the key for us, the priority to automate. And if I look at defense versus medical, I think that medical will be number one because that's the one where we have most volume of the same product. Defense is a very creative market with a lot of changes and innovation every year. I'm not saying that there is no innovation in medical, but I'm saying that, you know, the process of validating a medical product through FDA and so on, it means that it takes years, and the lifetime of the product is quite long. I mean, it's not unusual for us to have the same product sold over 7 years or over a decade. So, I mean, the volume then grows, and it makes it a good candidate for automation. While defense, we see that every year there is something new. Therefore, you need to redesign your product.
Oh, that's great. Well, y'all are doing great work there.
Thank you.
Harry, are you with us? Harry? Yeah.
Here I am.
Okay, so John, we will now move to the common questions to both the speakers, Harry and Alan, for this session. And I am also in the manufacturing industry, and I can relate a little bit better with a common audience in terms of challenges, which they both have highlighted in their respective presentations. But let me try to ask a common question for both of them. Harry and Alan, let's say you are representing manufacturing industries, a large company, SME. We know that US has increasingly become non-competitive in terms of manufacturing because of the cost, because of the lack of labor, because of the lack of availability of labor, and the demand is going very fast for the people qualified, education, certified, but we don't find them. Now, automation, the speed of automation, nobody can stop. It is going to come from here, from China, from France, from India or Germany, wherever. So how do you see in your respective industries the automation is going to play in 10 years from now?
Well, from my standpoint, when we talk about automation today, we say it's going to be complementary to what people do versus replacing what people do. When you talk about automation, the first thing people think about is the robot's going to replace my job and I won't be able to work anymore. So what we have learned, and we have been on the journey leveraging robotic process automation probably for a couple, 3 years now. And what we know in dealing with that is, most people have more work to do than they have time in the day. So what that means is there's a latent demand for people's time. And we're now leveraging automations to give people time back, or to allow them to do other things than the mundane task. So that's what we're focusing on, to try to get energy behind it and to really try to make automation not be viewed as a threat, but more as an ally.
Right. Thank you. Alan?
I will take this question on a different angle and talk more about change of business models, because what I see more and more in my area is that companies are changing business models based on data as well. And I will make a parallel with something that everybody knows and everybody has seen. I remember buying printers, and it was quite expensive to buy printers, and then you had to buy the consumable for the printer. First it was ribbon, and after that it was ink that you pay more than price of a luxury perfume. But then it became a fight in between printer companies. Therefore, the printer, you could buy it, almost for nothing. And today I don't even pay my ink. I'm paying a monthly fee to be able to print so many pages per month. And if I go over that, I will pay a premium. And that concept goes into more and more companies. And some of my customers particularly in the medical business, they give their devices to hospitals and surgeons simply because the money they make it on the consumables and on the implants that they give, that they expect to sell as a consequence of having their device in place. So that change of business model put a lot of focus and pressure on reducing the cost of the equipment, because you don't make money on the equipment anymore. You either make money on the data that is connected to that equipment or the money on the consumables of that equipment. And of course, having an equipment that you need to produce as cheap as possible, either you make it elsewhere or you automate it. And that's the only way forward that I see today. So it's also why we are kind of looking at how we, a connectivity company, are changing our business model. Are we still selling hardware, or do we need to sell the connectivity itself? Meaning not the product, but the functionality, the feature, and can be based on power you transport or based on the amount of data you transport, but you will be able to kind of sell a service and not anymore a product.
Alon, that's interesting, because that is something we both heard about a couple of weeks ago as well, is many manufacturers are doing just what you were doing, and the software or the service part or whatever, that data part, they're bringing that into their companies. So if that is something you are exploring, and you as a company as a whole, is that something you would globally, operations for all aspects of all of your verticals of products, or do you have some that you're concentrating on first, like to roll out?
I mean, we position ourselves on three main legs: about the physical connectivity, the electronics connectivity, and something I didn't mention today because it was kind of out of scope for that discussion, but it's also human connectivity. And when we speak about connectivity, we're talking about transferring data or power from point A to B. And currently, it's more and more wireless. So how do you place yourself as a connector and cable company when the world becomes wireless? So therefore, we're moving from that hardware to the data. And on the human connectivity, we have created a spin-off and a startup called Wherein, where we want to support those smart workers and smart soldiers and build on data, portal, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and that kind of things, to be able to provide connectivity solutions as a service and not anymore as a product. So it will be more on that human connectivity as a startup, but it will give us a lot of understanding of the challenges to then move into the other part of our three legs.
Yeah.
I had a follow-up question for Harry. In the utility electricity production business, there are really three phases, at least there may be more: production, transmission, and distribution. Which of those phases are more likely to benefit from the various aspects of automation? Because automation as a concept is not new. I mean, we can go back to pre-World War II vintage operations, and it's been built up. But which of these three phases are most open to greater levels of automation, automating processes?
Yeah, I think it's probably more on the distribution side, if I had to guess.
Oh, really?
But
wow.
But it's just, again, that's just my guess. It's I'm not an expert. I'll be transparent. I'm the IT guy. So as far as the power business, I'm going to leave that to the experts. But today, a lot of our plants already have sensors in place, and we're leveraging models. The people that manufacture that gear, they also sell solutions that include predictive models. So some of that, while a lot of that is in its infancy, it is there and it is being used and it is being matured. What I think where we can really play a huge role in improving the quality of service that the end consumer sees is when things go bad, when there's a storm and there's a lot of damage, and being able to restore services quickly, being able to really manage the restoration itself with being more predictive as to what's going to happen, so we can stage people in advance of the storm coming in, those type of things. Obviously, rerouting energy, leveraging automation, notifying people You know, when my power goes out, I'm getting notified that it's out, and that the ETA is X. You know, and that's what people expect. And when it comes back on, I'm being notified, your power should be back on. If it's not, then, you know, click here. So I think it's really all about that end experience where we can improve the automation.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I had one last question, but the time is short now. And it's really for Alain. This morning, we started off the day with a presentation by a colleague at the University of Manchester in the UK on Atlanta as a global innovation district, place of high R&D and concentration of skills and so on. I was curious if you could, in a few words, indicate why your company, or why you chose Atlanta, Greater Atlanta, as a location for your manufacturing operation. Because the debate, of course, about innovation district is that they only produce knowledge workers and not field workers in operational settings. But you are really using both knowledge workers and operational setting workers.
Well, in our case, we have much more operational workers than knowledge workers, because most of the design of the connectors themselves, I mean, the big bunch of designers is back in Europe, mainly in Switzerland. It's a long story, you know, about why Atlanta, because we have been in Georgia for more than 30 years now. So it's not something that I have decided during my lifetime here, but it was back in 91 that Fisher relocated in Georgia. I think it was a combination of first of all, being on the East Coast and to have the time difference, the minimum time difference versus Europe and Switzerland. The second part was probably the availability at the time of the workforce and the cost of the workforce. And the third one was the quality of life. I guess, I mean, we should mention it. I mean, I love being here, and it makes quite a difference when you need to have people to come. And I think it's a great place to be, and more a great place to be. So I'm not thinking about moving anytime soon.
We're all glad to hear it.
Thank you, Alain. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
And Harry, I would like to definitely say that we appreciate your support to bring this event, and look forward to your continued participation and support in our future events. You may want to exit now and come back as an audience now. Thank you, Alain.
Will do. Great. All right. Thanks all. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.
So with this, we are moving to back to our original schedule for